Now to breaking news in our nation's capital. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a bill that would ban TikTok in the U.S. unless its Chinese parent company sells the social media platform.
TikTok has been making headlines recently as the United States government considers banning it due to concerns over national security. With its addictive short-form videos and vast user base, TikTok has become a cultural phenomenon, attracting 170 million users in the US alone. The app, which is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, has faced criticism for its data collection practices and alleged ties to the Chinese government.
We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform.
However, despite calls for a ban from top government officials, experts argue that banning TikTok in the US is not only impractical but practically impossible. From legal challenges to the app's immense popularity among American users, there are numerous factors that make a ban not only unrealistic but impossible. So what would be the effects of banning TikTok and what makes it impossible to ban? Before we get into why it's impossible to ban TikTok, we need to first understand why it's being banned in the first place. The US House of Representatives passed a bill on March 13th that requires TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to sell the app. If ByteDance fails to sell TikTok, the app will be banned from being used on American phones. The government will enforce fines on major mobile app stores and cloud hosting companies to ensure Americans cannot access the app. Lawmakers and regulators in the West are concerned that the Chinese government may get its hands on sensitive user data, including location information. They are worried that China could demand data from Chinese companies and citizens secretly under the cover of intelligence gathering operations. TikTok has faced several allegations of aggressive data harvesting, which says that the app collects excessive amounts of information from its users, including user contact lists, access to calendars, scanning hard drives, including external ones, and geolocating devices on an hourly basis. Moreover, there are serious concerns about the potential misuse of TikTok's content recommendations. Critics argue that this feature could be exploited to disseminate misinformation, citing instances like the Israel-Hamas conflict and the US presidential election. Some even allege that TikTok has contributed to the spread of anti-Semitism. The government has yet to provide evidence that the Chinese government has used the app for these purposes. Despite these allegations, TikTok has consistently denied any wrongdoing and has tried to distance itself from ByteDance, which is considered to be one of the most successful startups in the world. The app's executives are planning to fight the new law in court, and they're not going down without a fight.
There are more than 150 million Americans who love our platform, and we know we have a responsibility to protect them.
They're hoping to get a judge to put the law on hold until the case is resolved, which could take months. And who knows, if things escalate, the case might even end up in the Supreme Court. It's definitely going to be a captivating legal battle to watch. Interestingly, this isn't the first time the US has failed to ban TikTok. In 2020, former President Donald Trump issued an executive order to stop TikTok from operating. However, a Trump-appointed judge put a stop to those plans by calling it arbitrary and inconsistent. There were other ways of dealing with the issue at hand. Another judge found that the supposed national security threat TikTok posed was a hypothetical scenario, and when the state of Montana attempted to ban the app in 2023, a federal judge deemed it unconstitutional and said it had an underlying anti-Chinese sentiment. Have you ever thought about the consequences of banning TikTok? Well, for starters, it would be a massive blow to the 170 million Americans who use the platform to express their views and stay informed about the latest news, including political events. With a ban, millions of people would be silenced, even those with unpopular opinions. Can you imagine the impact on free speech? Moreover, it's worth noting that Americans have the constitutional right to access all kinds of information, even if it's perceived as foreign propaganda. Moreover, many individuals depend on TikTok as a source of income, utilizing the platform to earn a livelihood. For millions of Americans, the loss of this app would be catastrophic, as it would bring immense financial hardships. If TikTok disappears, it'll only make media giants like Google and Meta even more powerful. They already control about half of all US digital ad dollars, so it's pretty concerning. Plus, we only have a few platforms to express ourselves on, so getting rid of TikTok would be a huge blow. It has the potential to cause huge damage to the emerging creator economy and the thousands of small businesses that operate within it.
A lot of TikTok content creators that make their main income, they might lose that, and that'll be stressful for them. However, again, life moves on.
What if I told you that a TikTok ban could mean a loss of a massive and engaged audience for small businesses? With over 1 billion active users worldwide, TikTok has become the go-to platform for Gen Z and millennial consumers. What makes TikTok stand out is its unique algorithm and content format, which have given small businesses the power to create engaging and innovative marketing campaigns that capture their audience's attention. From viral challenges and branded hashtag campaigns to influencer partnerships and user-generated content, TikTok offers an abundance of opportunities for businesses to showcase their products and services in creative and fun ways. So why is it practically impossible to ban TikTok? One thing we need to understand about the TikTok ban is that it all depends on whether TikTok's parent company ByteDance is able to divest or not. ByteDance would have 9 months to divest and find an American buyer for TikTok once the bill is signed. The president can extend this deadline by an additional 90 days. Even if ByteDance complies, the ban may not take effect for several years. ByteDance, a giant in the digital media world, is valued at approximately $225 billion. This places TikTok one of its premier assets in a valuation that only a few can afford. TikTok's popularity has soared over the last few years, and its US operations alone could be worth tens of billions of dollars. But here's the catch: only a select few financially robust entities can even think of acquiring such a valuable asset. American tech giants like Meta and Google might be the top contenders for this acquisition. And it makes sense, right? With their deep pockets and vested interests in social media and technology, acquiring TikTok would be a piece of cake for them. But it is highly unlikely that TikTok will be acquired by any of these American tech giants anytime soon. And the reason is simple: antitrust scrutiny. The Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice are keeping a watchful eye on any acquisitions that could further centralize power within the tech industry. If any of these companies acquire TikTok, it would trigger a remarkably robust antitrust review. The US needs more competition in the market, not less. But what about China's stance on the matter? China has declared its intent to block the sale of TikTok's underlying algorithm using export control policies. This adds another layer of complexity to the situation. US officials now face a difficult choice: implement an unpopular ban or risk appearing powerless in the eyes of companies, potentially undermining their authority. Another challenge of banning TikTok is presenting concrete evidence that the app poses a threat to national security or its users. It's a tricky task that requires differentiating TikTok from other social media giants like Meta and Twitter. After all, these platforms also collect user data, are susceptible to breaches, and are somewhat under the control of their operating country's government. One of the greatest factors that make a TikTok ban impossible is the US Constitution. TikTok has argued that banning the app would violate the US Constitution's First Amendment, which protects free speech. The First Amendment stance has already worked in TikTok's favor after a judge in Montana blocked the state's attempt to ban the app because it violated users' free speech rights. The First Amendment is a crucial part of the US Constitution as it guarantees the right to freedom of speech and expression. This right is not limited to traditional forms of communication only. It also covers modern platforms such as TikTok, which have become integral to our digital landscape. Therefore, if anyone attempts to ban TikTok, it will likely be challenged under the First Amendment. Such a ban could be a violation of people's right to access and share information. The 5th and 14th Amendments of the US Constitution make sure that everyone gets a fair treatment under the law. This means that the government should treat everyone equally and with transparency. If they want to ban TikTok, they must have a very good reason and follow proper rules to protect individual rights. The recently passed bill gives ByteDance 270 days to sell the app's US operations. If ByteDance appears close to completing a deal as the deadline looms, the president can authorize a 90-day extension. The deadline arrives at about the time the next president is inaugurated on January 20th, 2025, which means Donald Trump, if he wins the election, could decide whether the sale process is extended. Interestingly, Trump once a vocal critic of the platform, has seemingly softened his stance in recent times.
Former President Trump said in an interview today he believes TikTok is a national security threat but does not support banning it.
Trump's recent support for TikTok is a strategic move to win over the youth vote. TikTok mainly consists of young people, so harnessing its popularity could be beneficial for politicians who want to connect with this influential demographic. By aligning himself with TikTok, Trump might be trying to gain the favor of younger voters and increase his support for future elections. In addition, Trump's apparent affection for TikTok is a smart political strategy to portray himself as a champion of free speech and innovation. By openly advocating for the continued existence of TikTok, he could be positioning himself as a defender of digital freedom and entrepreneurship in the face of concerns over government censorship and intrusion. This statement might resonate with people who prefer to keep their online activities private and are hesitant about government intervention. It could also help improve relations with Beijing. Even if TikTok does get banned, VPNs will make sure it doesn't go anywhere. The widespread availability and affordability of VPNs have transformed access to the internet, empowering users to bypass government restrictions and enjoy unrestricted access to online content. With just a few clicks, anyone with an internet connection can download a VPN and gain access to TikTok and other blocked websites, regardless of their location or the policies of their government. For authorities seeking to enforce bans on TikTok, the proliferation of VPNs presents a significant challenge. Monitoring and regulating VPN usage on a large scale is a daunting task, requiring substantial resources and technological expertise. Moreover, cracking down on VPNs could impede legitimate internet activities and infringe on individuals' rights to privacy and freedom of expression, raising ethical and legal concerns. As citizens of a democratic society, Americans cherish their freedoms and liberties, including the right to privacy and freedom of expression. If the US government were to start cracking down on VPNs, it could risk mirroring the tactics employed by authoritarian regimes like China. Taking such actions would be very different from what America stands for. It could put at risk the basic rights and freedoms that are essential for democracy. Any sale of TikTok is going to be fought in the courts for years. That means both the people who love to use the app for fun, as well as those influencers and others who generate revenue from the app, can take a breath and be reasonably confident that while massive powers fight this all out, TikTok is still going to work and be updated in the US. While calls to ban TikTok in the US may stem from legitimate concerns about data privacy and national security, the reality is that such a ban is practically impossible. Instead of making a strict rule against TikTok, like banning it completely, people in charge will do better by making specific rules that protect people's information and deal with safety issues while still keeping TikTok open and safe to use.